with possibility at Babbie's house. Babbie's house. Everybody is family. Oh, welcome to Babbie's house.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Babbie's House on the Radio. I am your host, Babbie Mason, and thank you so very much for joining me. I have a very special guest who is standing by, but before we jump into our great interview with B. Jane Jones, the author of Be Prepared, We Are All Going to Die, I want to just encourage you a little bit here on the show. I am your host, Babbie Mason, and I am a singer-songwriter, a gospel music singer-songwriter, author, and speaker. I love to encourage people in the Lord. I've been recording now for probably close to 40 years. I recorded 26 albums, written 9 books. I teach at the college level in songwriting and entrepreneurship and music business. I am just a people builder. I love to build up people in their most holy faith and encourage them to walk with the Lord and use all of our gifts for God. And so before we jump into our conversation with B.J. Jones, B. Jane Jones, who is standing by, I want to just encourage you with a story. And I think that it goes well with our conversation today about being prepared before we leave this world. My mother, who was the consummate pastor's wife, wonderful wife, mother, friend, godly woman, beautiful on the inside and out. My mother lived to be almost 92 years of age. She and my father were married almost 50 years. My father died many years ago, over 3 decades ago. He died in his early 60s, which was way too young. But my mom lived to be almost 92 years of age. My mother had dementia. She fought dementia in her golden years. But my mother always, even though she struggled with her memory, she struggled with her cognitive ability, she always seemed to default to this phrase, nothing works like love. Nothing works like love. She would always just go back to that. And, being a pastor's wife, she was often, encouraged to speak encouraging words. And she would always go back to that phrase, nothing works like love. And I wrote a song that's inspired by 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And 1 Corinthians chapter 13, we call that the love chapter. And when I wrote that song, it's a paraphrase, a beautiful paraphrase of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And this is what it says. The chorus says this: love is patient, love is kind, love is humble all of the time, not easily angered, enduring the test. Never forget, love is the more excellent way. And I'll just encourage you to pick up your Bible and go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and read that entire chapter and just understand that nothing works like love. Maybe you have a challenge in your family, a challenge in your relationships, a challenge in your church, even some inner challenge. This passage encourages you to love yourself. Nothing works like love. Great words that my mother used to always say, and I'm passing those on to you. Well, today, my very special guest is B. Jane Jones, and we'll call her Jane for today's conversation. And she's written a great book called Be Prepared, We Are All Going to Die. And when I first picked up this book and I read that title, I was a bit taken aback. It's kind of an in-your-face kind of a title. And then I read the subtitle, and it says this: life lessons I learned along my journey while caring for my sick loved ones. And it's a powerful book. It's an easy read, but it's also packed full of wisdom. The Bible says, get wisdom and knowledge and get understanding. And this book is wisdom. It's like a textbook, like a manual for preparing for those things that are inevitable and how to prepare in advance of those moments. So let me welcome to Babbie's House on the Radio, Jane Jones. Jane, thanks for being my guest today.
Hey, it's an honor to be there.
An honor to have you, my friend. I'll tell you, Jane, you have done a remarkable job on just taking care of those things that are inevitable. In the book, you talk about a lot of things, all kinds of insurance, all kinds of things that we have to do to dot every I and cross every T before we leave this world. So let's jump into our conversation. First of all, tell us why you wrote the book called Be Prepared, We Are All Going to Die.
Well, I think the book is a God thing because after my husband passed away, I was laying in bed one night thinking of all the things that I needed to do, which luckily I had already prearranged a lot of things and taken care of stuff, but still there's just a lot to do. And then I heard, write a book, help other people. And I said, some people don't know this stuff until it's too late, and then they've got to make a quick judgment. And so the next morning I got up and started writing the book. And this is my life story for over 50 something years, dealing with sick loved ones and taking care of different situations as they came up.
Well, you did a really good job. And it's interesting that the Lord told you to write this book because there seems to be like one person in the family. There's one person in the family who seems to be the person who takes care of everything when somebody dies. They take care of the funeral. They take care of cleaning up the house. They take care of moving all the stuff. It's amazing how much stuff you can accumulate in a house, and you don't realize how much stuff you have collected until somebody passes away and somebody has to clean it up and either discard it or donate it or distribute the loved one's belongings according to their wishes. I mean, there's usually one person in the family who takes care of it. And I think you're probably one of those people.
I am.
Yes, I can tell. You're one of those people who takes care of business, but you're challenging us to take care of our own business. And this is a wake-up call for a lot of us who read this book because it's a manual. So I want to talk about you talk about a lot of types of insurance in the book. And one of those types of insurance is cancer insurance. Why is it important to have cancer insurance?
Well, nowadays, it's not just older people that may get cancer, it's kids. And it is older people too, like Jimmy Carter. He had cancer. I mean, it's not age specific. And it's hard. If financially, it can just ruin you because it's not cheap. I've had friends to lose 11-year-old boy. I mean, so you need to be prepared and at least have some extra financial help along with your health insurance. Cancer pays, different states have different laws too and different setups, but check out insurance companies and see what is best for you.
Very, very good advice. Cancer insurance. I don't know the statistics, but cancer impacts a lot of families.
Yes.
And impacts a lot of people. And as you say, not just older people, but cancer can impact any member of your family. Well, let's talk about travel insurance. Now, I've traveled extensively throughout the course of my life in ministry, traveled for almost 40 years. I've racked up over 2 million miles on one airline alone and spent a lot of time on the road in my vehicle. And when I make my plane reservations, I never check that box to get travel insurance. But tell me why I and our listeners and viewers need to get travel insurance.
Well, it's just an added bonus if something were to happen to you to take care of things. I was with a company and they paid for all of the employees to have travel insurance because all the other people, I mean, I was in the office, but all the other guys, they traveled extensively. And so and this one was actually set up as a double indemnity clause on it to where the company got half of it and your loved ones got half. That way they could pay to replace you. And then they had a 4-year clause in it to where each year your loved one, the beneficiary, got a payment. So it was not all up front. And so, if something happened to you, like a plane or car, bus, whatever, then you've got a little bit of money coming in to take care of you for a little while longer, without having to worry about it.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. Well, let's talk about as we get older, some of the things that we need to take care of as far as long-term care insurance. I'm a member of the baby boomer generation, and I think I read somewhere that the baby boomer generation is the biggest generation, and we're living longer as well. And so we need to consider long-term care insurance. How do you get started looking for long-term care?
Well, you can check with your regular insurance company, and then they maybe can guide you to a different insurance company if they don't carry it. Because just because you get your car insurance here doesn't mean that they have all of these other insurance. So then they can recommend, or just now you can Google and find out who's locally that you can call and ask. And I did at one point for me and Roy, because Roy had diabetes, kidney disease, later had cancer. But by the time I called to get a quote, it was the insurance agent actually laughed, because I actually knew him, and so he could laugh at me. But he said, I could give you a quote, but I'm telling you, it's just astronomical at your age. So I said, okay, we'll deal with what we've got to do. And so Roy stayed at home and we took care of him. So it worked out. Now, in some cases, it may not. But then you have to check with your state to see if they can get on Medicaid to help pay for some stuff that you financially cannot deal with.
Right. What are the benefits of long-term health insurance?
Well, I can tell you a story with my mother. They did not have long-term care, and we had to put her in a nursing home with Alzheimer's. And then we had to get Medicaid in because we financially could not pay it, because one room for a month, and it's a semi-private room at that, at this time that she was going into, it's almost $5,000 a month. We could not take care of her. We were all working, my sister and I, and we didn't have the space. And hers was, she didn't even know us at the time. So we had no choice. But luckily, Medicaid kicked in after 3 months, and, we were okay. But you have to do what you have to do when the time comes. And that's something we did not look into for our parents.
Right.
So there again, I learned from not having the information I needed to have.
We often think that when a loved one goes into a care facility, that certain benefits will kick in, but we are surprised to find out that they don't, or the amount that we think is going to come doesn't come, and the brunt of the financial responsibility is on the family. Yes. That is not the time to discover that you don't have what you're going to need to take care of your family and to take care of your loved ones. So this kind of information is very, very important. In the book, you talk about getting and having a will prepared. How important is having a will, and what happens if you don't have one?
Well, if you don't have one, it's more financially and time consuming, because then you've got to go to the courthouse and fill out all these papers. You've got to file it, wait for the court to do this, tell you that you need another piece of paper filled out. And it gets time consuming more and financially. But thank goodness we had a will, and I just looked up for the probate and will attorney and called one and got in with them, and they were able to handle everything. So I handle some things because they would have handled it and it would have cost more money, but I was able to handle some things. But if you're not able to, and you don't know the laws on that part, let the attorney handle it. That's what they're there for. You pay for the experts to do the work. and it's a burden off of you.
And then if
on
you
a
also have
will,
questions, if you have questions about the process, you have someone immediately who can advise you. Whereas
yes,
you may not have that with probate, because it's a system, and you may not have the right person, or have the time, and have access to the right person to get the answers that you want.
yes. And they deal with it every day. The lawyers do. And that's why I went to someone that dealt totally in probate and wills. And now we have our wills set up. So my daughter said she didn't want a will, didn't need a will. She didn't have nothing. I said, well, you got a car. If something happened to you, I'd have to go and do all of this paperwork. And that's a lot of paperwork. And then they say, oh, you didn't fill in this line, then you got to go back or whatever. I said, it's easier to have a will. So, and then whoever you want to get something will get it. The executor takes care of all of that, after probate. So I would advise anybody to have a will. If it's nothing but a simple will, but the more intricate your family, if you own a company, you have stepkids, all of this other stuff, you have both sets of parents living, you still want to be able to handle everything when you're gone, that they can handle it easier.
It's so important for you to make those decisions while you're living, because if you don't make the decisions while you're living, then you're leaving it up to the state to make the decisions after you pass. And the state may not, and probably won't, make those decisions according to the loved one's best wishes, and desires. So it's always important for you to make those decisions ahead of time. Well, let's talk about a trust. What is a trust, and why is it important to have a trust?
Now, trust is more in depth than just the will, because one thing the trust does is mainly the executor has to take care of a will and would have to take care of a trust. But in the trust, it does not go to probate. It goes to whoever your will states that, hey, these people get the house, this person gets the car, this one gets your grandmother's rocking chair, whatever you want to put in the will. But it's all there. And to not have to do probate is a big thing. It took me 9 months to go through probate when my husband died.
Wow.
So time consuming, and financially it could really, you'd rather pay for it up front than later, is my theory.
Yes, this is such good advice. I'm talking today with B. Jane Jones. She is the author of Be Prepared, We Are All Going to Die, Life Lessons I Learned Along My Journey While Caring for My Sick Loved Ones. Jane, you even plan your own funeral service. You bought your own cemetery plot. Why did you do that?
Well, I didn't want to leave it up to my kids. And when I asked my husband what did he want to do, and he said, I don't want to talk about it. You take care of it. You know what I want. I said, okay. And so I did. I mean, somebody's got to do it. And so I did it. I went and prearranged at the funeral home first. Then after I got that paid for, I bought the plots, got that paid for. Then I did the headstones. That was paid for. My son says, I can't believe it. When Dad died, Mom just made one phone call. It was already prearranged and prepaid. Now, you can make prearrangements at a funeral home and not pay for it at the time. But if you make the prepayments, they lock in the price. So you don't get all the price increases that you would have had from 15 years ago to now. It's all in there.
Now that's wisdom.
Yes.
That's wisdom, because it's like, that's wisdom, because it's like real estate. If you buy a house today, or if you bought a house 20 years ago or 30 years ago, you're going to pay the prices of your real estate 30 years ago as opposed to real estate today. So it's very important to buy the funeral plot or the cemetery plot today. You're not going to pay the prices that you pay 20 years from now.
Yes, because when I went and bought our plots, I paid $800 and something for each plot. Now they're like $4,500 at this one cemetery. That's because of inflation. Thank goodness I had paid for it. So
Yes. When my mother passed, we're talking about preparing and prepaying for your funeral and burial expenses. When my mother passed away in 2015, of course, we hadn't planned her funeral service and her burial expenses and all of that. And I'll just say personally that when someone like when a loved one passes and someone like your mother, you pay for a lot of things under emotional stress. No disrespect to funeral homes, but a lot of times you feel you kind of feel the pressure of getting this in mom's memory and paying for this in mom's memory and paying for a casket that is probably more expensive when mom has passed and you're paying for it at the last minute, as you probably wouldn't be that extravagant if you were to purchase those earlier in the stage. So, and no disrespect to funeral homes, but a lot of times you feel pressured to spend more money, and you would spend more money in the moment under stress, under grief, than you would if you were to do that, if you were to pre-plan and prepay. Do you agree with that?
yes.
Yes, that's very important to do that. Well, I'm talking today with B. Jane Jones. She's the author of Be Prepared, We're All Going to Die. Now, Jane, I want to, hopefully, I'm sure this is helping somebody today who is just needing more wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. But who is the person typically that should read the book?
Well, I think it starts maybe from college graduates. They go to school. Their parents have probably paid for their car insurance. They probably paid for renter's insurance if they rented a house while going to college. They may not even realize what expenses they are going to have to take care of now. And I start out the book with car insurance and then renter's insurance and home insurance. It's a lifetime journey of things that I have learned in over 50 something years.
It's a lifetime of experience, and you
Yes.
have done a really good job of packing a lot of information in your book. Tell us how we can get a copy of the book.
Go to my website, bjanejones.com, and they have several links of different places that offer it. The link you just click on. And then I also have at the bottom of the page where you could order bulk if a funeral home, lawyers, whatever, would want to give to clients or whatever. So
I think it's a really good idea to buy them in bulk and have them at your local church. There is a lot of churches will have a little rack where you can get the devotional, Our Daily Bread, or you can get the schedule for the daily scripture reading to read the Bible in a year. This book would be a nice little addition to your library, your church library, or even to have a class to help prepare your church members and how to take care of those important things, those inevitable things that we all need to take care of while we're living. Well, Jane, any last words of wisdom, anything that we've missed today that you want to just give that one last bit of advice for that person who's listening or watching today?
Well, I know it's a hard subject to talk about, but you need to talk to your loved ones, especially your mother and daddy if they're still living, and your spouse. Make sure you know where their will is, whether it's in a safe deposit box, and you know their wishes so you can carry them out and they will be happy and you can honor them.
Well, you're talking about life insurance, long-term health care insurance, car insurance, wills and trusts, and a lot of these things cost a good bit of money that I can hear, I can just imagine people are kind of dismissing, saying, well, I don't have the money, to do a will. I don't have the money for long-term health care insurance and those kinds of things. How would you advise them to financially get started?
Well, on some of it, most all insurance, like your life insurance, your long-term, it's cheaper the younger you are, because life insurance, I have it on my kids and my grandson. You have it cheaper when they're first born. I would advise people, when the baby's born, get the life insurance. Make sure it has borrowing power. It's a whole life. I've had to borrow mine. My daughter and I went to Europe on her senior trip. I didn't have the money for that, but I borrowed off our life insurance and I was able to go. So it builds up and then you just pay it back monthly, like you're paying on it anyway. But there's always, let your money work for you. Let what you're paying for work for you and for your loved ones later.
That's all very good advice. Tell us again how we can get the book. I think you have a website. Remind us of your website.
bjanejones.com.
Simply put, bjanejones.com. And there, I like to advise people to visit your website and go to your website store. You can get a copy of the book there at bjanejones.com. Well, Jane, thanks so very much for being my guest today. Thank you for all this wonderful information and for just kind of giving us a good little boot to get us started and realize the importance of getting these things done before we pass and other people have to come along and clean up behind us. Thanks again for being my guest.
Thank you.
Well, my dear friends, I'm so glad that you're watching Babbie's House on the radio today or listening by radio. And let me just tell you a little bit about our ministry here at BabbieMasonRadio.com. It's my internet radio station. And on the station, you will hear 24 hours a day, beautiful music and encouraging words that are uplifting and words that are inspirational and words that help you to grow in your most holy faith. We started the radio station back in 2014, and it has always been my joy to encourage you like this on internet radio. Let me tell you some of the programming that you'll hear. I am a singer-songwriter, gospel music singer-songwriter, author, and speaker, and I love to sing and write and record my own songs. I have 26 recorded projects. I have hundreds of songs out there, written thousands of songs, but recorded quite a few of them. Other artists have recorded my songs, like Larnell Harris recorded All in Favor and King Jesus is His Name. Helen Baylor recorded The Sea of Forgetfulness. Alvin Slaughter has recorded some of my songs. The Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir has recorded many of my songs. So it's just a wonderful opportunity for me to share my music with you on Babbie Mason Radio. And you go to my website at babbie.com, click the play button. There's a little triangular play button that's playing there. You just click that button and that will launch the radio station. And you can listen 24 hours a day to beautiful music and encouraging words. We play beautiful music throughout the day, in the evening, depending on what time zone you live in. But living here in the Eastern time zone, we play all kinds of wonderful Bible study programs. We play Charles Stanley. We play Tony Evans, Max Lucado, James Ford, all kinds of wonderful Bible study programs, Jeff Shreve and many others to help you grow in your faith. We play a block of Bible study programs every evening. And then the rest of the time throughout the day and the night, you can hear beautiful music and encouraging words. You can hear my favorite songs that I've written. Babbie Mason is our favorite artist on Babbie Mason Radio. My songs that I've written across the years, Each One Reach One, A World of Difference, When You Can't Trace His Hand, Trust His Heart, All Rise, With All My Heart, and many of the songs that I've written across the years. You can also hear those songs, as well as the music of independent artists and conversations with people like Jane Jones, who are independent authors. Check it all out at babbie.com. That's our website. Well, thank you so very much for being my very special guest and for watching and listening to the show. Reach out to me, email me at babbie@babbie.com, or check me out on social media. All my links are right there on the front page of the website. Well, let me give you a blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine up on you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. That is my prayer for you. You pray for me. I'll pray for you. And may the Lord God bless you and yours real good. Bye-bye for now.